It's back, 10,000 Ely Eco Wad shells, 300 careful previous owners, and you can win it. With so many of you asking about lead-free rimfire bullet performance, Tim trawls the trade to find some. Optical performance, Charlie gets his measuring stick out, and torches for courses. We have the Streamlight range, but what to use when? Welcome to Fieldtester. Okay, so we're going to talk about the steel versus barrels challenge later in the show, but we're going to kick off with rimfires. Done a lot of filming with rimfires. There's always that debate between 1.7 HMR and 2.2. So I'm going to throw it out there, gentlemen. Your favourite?
Oh, 1.7 HMR, most definitely.
Lupton?
I never progressed onto the 1.7. I've always been a great fan of the 2.2.
Okay. The reason for our test today is to look at the non-lead options, because we've obviously done a lot of work on the centerfire stuff. How easy was it to find non-lead rimfire ammo?
Unfortunately, it wasn't. There's hardly anybody holding lead-free rimfire at the moment. It's the back orders are quite huge. It's 3 or 4 or 5 months. So basically, I think we were able to kind of secure 3 different rounds, and that was it.
That's it.
That's not it. Yeah, so it's not easy.
Just to sort of add, though, while you were doing that, you did a bit of a round robin to see, as far as the landscape, as far as non-lead ammunition was available, and it's looking pretty grim, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think there's a supply issue no matter what industry you're in. Cement, wood, Celotex, the whole thing is this. So there are supply chain issues around the whole world, and unfortunately, ammunition is no exception to that. But with a growing market with lead-free ammunition in the UK, and I think going through Europe and other places, I think the manufacturers being caught short, and they basically are trying to catch up. And it's quite alarming that a lot of these manufacturers will not be getting the ammunition into this country until October, maybe November. Okay. So it's quite a delay. So it's coming, but it's just at the moment we've been caught short. And of course, obviously with the demands from the game dealers saying they will not accept anything which has been shot with lead. I think from this autumn, now, isn't it? It's a perfect storm, so it is a problem at the moment, but I'm sure it will be all right by Christmas.
Okay. I picked this Winchester ammunition up from David Stapley at the Browning event I filmed the other day, and he said that Winchester, however, do have a lot of lead-free coming to the country. So I told him I'd say that, so I've said it. Thank you for the Winchester ammunition, David. Mr. Lupton, you weren't part of the test, which people will see in a second, but explain why you said you didn't progress onto a 1.7 HMR. Is there a progression? Is it something you progress on to?
No, I think, it's whatever tickles your fancy. The 2.2 was always my go-to for going out rabbiting. Obviously it's not something that we're doing so much of these days because we just simply haven't got the rabbits about, although we were talking about it a little bit earlier with Tim. We are seeing rabbits starting to slowly make a comeback. But for me, the 2.2 did everything that I needed it to do. As long as you were aware that they can be a little bit naughty for ricochets, you always had to be that extra little bit careful about where you use them, making sure you weren't shooting into flinty ground, or made sure you had a very sufficient backstop, because many a night you go out and you do hear them whizzing off a little bit. But
that's only with the 2.2, not with the...
with the 2.2, because obviously the with the 1.7 you've got much greater velocity. Once they're impacting with the 1.7s, they're fundamentally a safer round to use, because they are just giving up their energy and finishing up.
So when you think about rimfire, is it always rabbits, or can it be used for other quarry too? What's it legal for, just so people... You can
shoot foxes with them. You can shoot pretty much any vermin with them. Again, so long as it's safe. But from my perspective, it was always a 2.2 for rabbits, because you could head shoot them and it didn't cause any damage at all to the carcasses. And it was a phenomenal, or it is a phenomenal round to use for bunnies, for putting them on the table. Whereas with the 1.7s, again, if you're using them for head shooting, it's all very well. But if you're using a shot, or if you're shooting something front end on, then you are losing a fair amount of your rabbit as well, or you can do. So
yeah,
you lose a lot of your rabbit?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're two completely different bullets. Solid 2.2 rimfire bullet is a lump of lead, whereas the 1.7 HMR, basically most of them are frangible. They just explode. They're 17 or 20 grain bullets normally, so therefore they're tiny little things. So yes, so very often if you do a body shot, you will lose the whole front end of the animal. But very often with the 1.7 HMR, they're so accurate, is you can guarantee within reason headshots, maybe 100, maybe 125 meters quite easily. Yeah. They are that good. They're that flat.
But it can't be windy though.
So I was going to say, so long as it's not a windy night.
So it's not too windy, they don't like the wind because it's a very light bullet.
It's cool though, because there are so many different variables for each one. It's sort of like, it depends on. And I think that also
weather conditions. The 1.7 HMR is obviously has a crack, is supersonic, so therefore you get that crack, whereas the subsonic you don't. But applications, horses, courses. I shot a lot of rabbits last year in a 25-acre field. I shot I think 80 over about 2 hours. We just drove around slowly, ding 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 ding. Whereas an HMR would have cleared the whole field within about 5 minutes. Yeah. So complete them. So therefore, and also the 2.2, most shooting distances probably 40, 50, 60 meters, maybe maximum, maybe a bit more if you're good at it. HMR, you can sit back 100 meters and more is guaranteed killing the animal. So it's a different type of hunting, perhaps.
Price now. Just before we go to the film, because isn't one round a lot more expensive than another?
Yeah, the HMR is a lot more expensive than 2.2.
Why?
I expect that the volume the HMRs produce is nowhere near 2.2, because the HMR in many countries is unheard of.
Really?
So, oh yeah, a lot of countries you can't get HMR. They don't know nothing about it. So I expect it could be purely volume. I've got no idea.
Plus, when you look at the the bullets themselves, they're ballistic tipped. So you've got a polymer tip in the end of them. It's a finer piece of work than an old 2.2 round.
Okay. Interesting how it's sort of, there is this split, but there's sort of, you're either one camp or another, I suppose. I don't know, but as far as, we talked about the cost of the bullets there. You say you never buy any ammunition, lucky old Tim there.
I've got a clue.
I know.
How much are they?
I don't know.
I don't know, it's a long time since I've bought any 2.2s as well. No, but but again, I used to go through a lot of 2.2 rounds.
Yeah.
And how much were they when you were 12 then?
Very cheap. No, I honestly can't remember. 2 bob. No, I mean.
But as far as a sort of a rifle setup, you can pick up. I mean, this is I think it's a little CZ, but again, these things are not expensive.
No, not
to
at
get
all.
Into rimfire shooting, it's not an expensive thing, is it?
No. But now, obviously, we haven't got the same quarry availability that we used to have.
So it would be bunnies.
For me,
you miss your bunnies.
It was rabbits. It was rabbits and the occasional fox. But we were out rabbiting 2-3 nights a week, and that was the go-to.
Wow. Okay. Let's go to our film. So we've done a test. Will you explain it?
We're testing the Winchester 1.7 HMR, and also we're testing the 2.2 Winchester and also the 2.2 RWS.
But the one difference is that we're going to be using high velocity rounds.
Yeah.
We haven't, in this country, at the moment, you couldn't find 2.2 subsonic, could you?
At the moment, it seems to me that for whatever reason it is, they cannot produce a subsonic lead-free bullet.
Just hold that thought. Let's go down the range and see what we did. So you've got a huge, vast range of different lead-free ammo, yes?
Unfortunately, there's not an awful lot of choice out there at the moment. I think a lot of the manufacturers are aspiring to produce this non-lead or lead-free ammunition, but the problem is, with cement, with wood, with glass at the moment, the supply chain is falling apart, so there's not much availability. So anyway, what we've managed to do, we've managed to kind of find some Winchester HMR lead-free ammunition, and also we've got a couple of brands of 2.2 rimfire. So this is just a very, very simplistic kind of Fieldtester test. We can't do an awful lot of testing because we haven't got much ammunition. Brexit, COVID, excuses, 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 there's not much about, but that's life. But with this time next year, Rodney, it'll be absolutely fine. On this one here, we've got the Winchester 15.5 grain. Okay, so there's a fair bit of wind blowing today, so the wind does push it around a wee bit. 2 inches at the moment, but the actual elevation was quite good. The Hornady 17 grain had one flower there, which is interesting, but other ones there, so inch and a bit, so respectable, I think, really. And last of all, we've got the CCI, the 17, what's that? The 17 grain CCI. Very respectable. Look at that. So accuracy, yeah, it's not as good as these two, but it could be just me.
Okay, Mr. Pilbeam, 2-2.
2-2, right. Okay, first of all, the 1 nature miles, 100 metres. I've actually come back to about 70 metres now, it's a bit closer. We're talking about these 2 rounds here at the moment. Winchester Varmint LF, lead-free, and we've got the RWS high velocity green. A lot lighter than your normal 2-2, both lead-free. And also, these are high velocity, which means that most people probably won't be keen, because we shoot most of our rabbits in the UK with subsonics. There's no noise at all.
It's so quiet, Tim.
The lead-free alternatives are only available at the moment as high velocities, which is an interesting one. So I think perhaps we chat about that later on, because I guess that's been a major problem really. Anyway, so both running at about 1650 feet per second, so going reasonably quickly. I think what you do is just throw some lead and some non-lead down the range and just see how they compare accuracy-wise. Okay, right. I don't know what we can do with this, but this is real life. This is what happens when things are live. So it's probably me. It could be the rifle. So you know, if I had another 2-2 rifle here, perhaps I would actually have another go. But anyway, this is where we are. So this is the RWS green shooting here. Okay, so 3-inch group, so nothing too glamorous, I must admit. And then we moved on to Winchester, which is completely and utterly all over the place. Then basically I had some old RWS standard high velocity lead bullets kicking around, and they're slightly lower, but obviously the group is nothing too special there as well. So yeah, nothing too special. So just my own sanity.
Take away from that.
I'm sorry, manufacturers, but this is not good. Anyways, but this is what happens. And I just grabbed some of those as well, some Subsonics for my own sanity to make sure I'm right. And they group nicely down here. There's actually 4 shots in there. So that's about 1.25 inches. So you know, the rifle does shoot reasonably well. And this is at 70 meters. I haven't got huge experience of high velocity 2-2s because we just do not use them. Most hunters in the UK will use Subsonics all the time. The difference in sound is huge. They're quiet and they're cheap. So you know, it's not very often we have fun with the high velocity ammunition. Anyway, I think the thing to do, I'm going to dive back, get my other 2-2 rifle. To be fair to the manufacturers of the ammunition, I need to get my other rifle out and see if there's any change at all.
Come on then, Mr. Pilbeam.
Okay, this is the reality of Fieldtester. Doesn't always go to plan, and we've got 2 choices here. Either just bin this film and say we never did this test, or we say things happen, and I'm being polite. Anyway, so we've got here the 2-2 Rimfires. At 70 meters, the Winchester achieved about 2.5-inch group, so nothing particularly special, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, and then basically we use the RWS green at 70 meters, and no comment. I don't know what on earth's happened there, so it doesn't obviously like my my rifle. So the only way I can benchmark, I suppose, bring some reality back to this, is what does that rifle do with normal ammunition? I say lead ammunition. So I've got some Subsonic here, lead ammunition, which is kind of 40-odd grain Lapua, and down here 70 meters, 1 flower there, but quite respectable. So yeah, 70 meters, I'd be happy with that for shooting rabbits. So perhaps my rifle is not suited to high velocity 2-2 ammunition, so I found this. So I've just stuck that down, 5 shots, or 6 shots actually, at 70 metres. And we've got one flyer there, and it's, you know, that a lot of that stuff's within an inch. So obviously the lead-free high velocity 2-2 ammunition does not suit the Ruger, and it doesn't actually seem to suit my anchors very well. But if you go for the standard lead low velocity and high velocity ammunition, it seems to shoot it quite well. So it's just one of those things, horses for courses. Just if you want to use high velocity ammunition, I suppose, in the 2-2, perhaps they are a bit more fussy. Certain bullets suit certain rifles, and Rimfire's no different. So I think the most important thing is just got to make sure you get the right one for your rifle. We've proven today that is definitely the case.
Before we start chatting, Aaron asked us what HMR stood for, and we had to Google it. So come on, Pilbeam, what was it?
Hornady, Magnum.
Or Hornaby?
Hornady, Magnum,
Not the trains.
Rimfire.
He doesn't.
Not trains.
He really doesn't get that out enough. Right. Right. We rushed through those. Basically, Lupton's been late today, so he sort of appeared, and we had to run through it and get. I mean, basically, we got faster and faster and faster because we had McNabbs just sort of leaning over the desk or leaning over the shooting bench like this, saying, "Come on, come on, come on." So
I was there just trying to support you, making sure you didn't get blown off in the wind.
Yeah, but it was near lunchtime as well.
it was.
Yeah.
Well, it's not much of a lunch, is it? David's on a salad diet. Yeah. Right, salad and fruit, it really is quite poor. We used to turn up when we had pastries, coffees, but now we've got strawberries and blueberries.
and plums, healthy plums.
Oh dear. Anyway, enough about me. Let's start with the whole subsonic high velocity sort of question debate. Obviously, it's available in this country. Do you use it?
What? Subsonic?
No, high velocity.
High velocity? No,
high
I'm not.
velocity
I'm not.
2-2.
Again, when we were younger, we played around with. Again, we were talking about it earlier. Some of the old Stingers, which were high velocity rimfire rounds. You know, and everybody sort of used to rave about them, about using them for foxes or whatever else. If you're gonna, you take some along and pop one in if you saw a fox. But yeah, we played with them, but never used them seriously. Again, I mean, just the noise was such an issue with them. When you're used to just going around and just popping away with a normal subsonic, it's lovely and quiet. But when you put one of those in, even if you've got a moderator on, you certainly knew that you were using it.
I mean, I filmed both because Tim put the subsonic in. It's just like, oh, that's lovely. It's so lovely to shoot, isn't it? And it's just
it's quiet.
Nice to be around.
Yeah,
there's a stealth element, whereas the HMR, there's no stealth. Is there?
No, that's it. You know it's coming. Yeah. That's it. You're announcing your presence.
Yeah. I mean, that when you're a hunter, if you've got one fox maybe, although, again, there's a question mark over, do people get a bit sort of itchy about using...
Again, I mean, it's using it in the right circumstances. So if you were using a 2-2 on a fox, you'd make sure you called it in close enough and shot it in the head, and it was game over. Yeah, you wouldn't want to take a stretchy shot at them. But again, I don't like it when I see people taking stretchy shots with with the 1.7s, because I've seen a lot of people doing body shots with those at longer distances, and it's not made for that.
Okay, so 2-2 maximum range for you would be what?
If I was shooting a fox, probably 50 yards.
Okay, and if you then had high velocity?
Again, I never played with them, so I say we played with them, but we never used them in anger, so I don't know.
Out of your shooting buddies, who shoots 2-2 high velocity?
Nobody. No.
Nobody.
Right. Just a cultural thing? Or what?
Well, it's noisy. There's no need. There's no need. I think
so your range. Okay, so I'm just trying to think the difference between 1.7 and HMR, both noisy. So why would you choose?
Well, the other thing is you know your trajectory as well. So if you're using one round, so if you're using a subsonic, you know what you're zeroed at, and then if you're shooting a lot, you get to learn your loop of your trajectory, and then you can figure out, or you can gauge your distance if you're shooting rabbits further out than your zero range. You've just got to hold over to a certain degree. But if you then throw a different round into the mix, if you throw a stinger into the mix, then that completely throws everything.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you've got the noise issue with both.
Yeah.
So why would...
No, not with both.
Right,
No, with the high velocity.
That's where we're going. So why do people prefer? So your question basically is asking what's better, the 2.2 high velocity or 1.7 HMR?
Oh,
And
yeah.
then they are completely different. So the high velocity will be shooting a 40-odd grain bullet, rimfire, whereas the 1.7 HMR is a 17 or 20 grain bullet.
So it's half the weight.
The size, yes. And it goes at 2,500 feet per second as opposed to 14 to 1,600 feet per second. So as
You've got a lump.
Yes, so it's such a small bullet, and he's going so fast, so it is inherently incredibly accurate. So therefore it is flat. So therefore on my HMR, I think I was zeroed at 120 metres. So therefore anything out to 140 metres, you just aim at the head. It is that simple. So it is flat. And that's the biggest thing about it, is it is so flat.
Okay, again, going to high velocity, 2.2, 70 metres straight, would you say?
No, probably not. No, I wouldn't have thought so. Do you know, it's really embarrassing, but I haven't shot, until today, I haven't shot a high velocity 2.2 for 30 odd years. Never needs to. I've got them in my gun cabinet, but I never use them.
Interesting.
Never need to.
It is a sort of halfway house, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the market is, I mean, people have obviously got used to the fact that either they're a 177 or the...
And I think, as Roy's
1.7.
picked up before, is that, you know, if you had a 2.2 high velocity and a 1.7 HMR, downrange, the HMR, as soon as it touches the blade of grass, it completely blows up, it fragments. Whereas a 2.2 rimfire bullet would just bounce off. The ricochet is quite poor on a 2.2 because it's a lump of lead.
Yeah.
Whereas the HMR is designed to literally explode. We've got the polymer tip and it just goes to nothing.
Okay. We've given you a bit of an idea of what results we got downrange. Are you surprised really by some of the results? I mean, the accuracy wasn't brilliant with some of the...
I think we break it down to two. On the 2.2 lead-free ammunition, so the Winchester and the RWS, what I was very surprised about is, we did try two different rifles, was the difference in accuracy. That's what surprised me. And it could be just the two rifles I've had. And I think when we swapped over rifles, I think the one improved a wee bit, one didn't. So it's all horses for courses. So purely on the 2.2 rimfire side of things, they weren't as accurate as the 2.2 Subsonics.
Are 2.2s notoriously good at holding zero and keeping zero and just being reliable?
Yeah, I mean, they were a very reliable workhorse.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think anything of it. You didn't need to maintain it overly. You didn't need a lot of cleaning, if any, and you just used to pick it up and away you go again.
But you are shooting at 50, 60 yards max, so therefore there will be a degree of variance.
Yeah,
it doesn't really make a difference. If you're shooting at anything over 100 metres, a half inch or an inch movement will make a massive difference.
Yeah.
So 50 yards, like, as long as it's kind of there, you'll take it out.
Okay, so really sort of like trying to wrap this up a bit, would you say that it'd be great when there's some lead-free 2.2 subsonic? That's what we're looking for.
That's what we're looking for. Whether it's achievable, I question that. I think also the 1.7 HMR, it was a wee bit less accurate than the lead alternatives. Grouping was a bit more, but the lead-free is 15.5 grains, and the lead bullet we used was 17 grains. So once again, there's a slight difference there. So it'd be interesting with these lighter. So one thing we need to pick up on is that if copper is 20 odd plus % lighter than lead. So if you've got a 2.2 bullet, you can't achieve that same shape of bullet with copper because it will and maintain the same weight, because it'll be far too long. It won't fit in the rifle. Okay, so the only way they can do it is actually have a lighter bullet. Okay, that's what's happened. So therefore they're lighter. So one of the questions I've got for it is, if they're lighter, what are they like at longer ranges? Down range, how good are they? Because surely if it's lighter, it's going to be.
You've also got quite a windy day out there. So in reality, because it's a lighter round, you're going to be getting more deflection anyway.
Yeah.
So that could be again part of the inaccuracy.
Yeah. So today, perhaps not the best of days for testing, but Fieldtester is about, we get out there and have a go, You know, we could have fudged it, but actually, you know, it's just happened on the day.
Yeah. Talking of fudging it, one thing we didn't want to do with our steel versus barrels challenge is be accused of making stuff up. Quite a sort of contentious issue, so we put 10,000 shells down the Yildiz, but we needed an independent expert to tell us what sort of impact those 10,000 shells had on that particular shotgun. Here's Mark.
We started with the Yildiz as a brand new gun. That was important to do that because that's your baseline to work from. And we thoroughly measured the gun. We didn't at that stage pay too much attention to the internals of the action, but we were more concerned with the barrels, and they were thoroughly measured, much more than you would do for, say, proof or inspection. So I measured them about every inch. So we had a good picture of the internal diameter of the barrels and the shape of them. And the gun went away then, and it was, as I'm told, furiously shot with steel. We then remeasured it again, an intermediate check, and posted our findings. And to be quite honest, there was no material changes to the barrels at all through the entire process, and it fared very, very well. I would still expect, with that sort of furious use, to see wear on the joint, the hinge pin, strikers, tumblers, ejector kickers, and the internal diameter of the barrels themselves, even if it's only for them to settle down from a new gun, which does happen. But to be fair, I didn't see any. Is it a fluke? No, I suspect not. The gun was built quite nicely, and it didn't wear. I would love to say that it did, and oh dear, this is no good at all, but actually I can't say that in all honesty, because it didn't. And there was no material wear, even on the finish of the gun as well. The finish was very good. The blacking was good, the finish on the action was good, and there was no wear at all. And a thorough clean, you could quite easily have put the gun back up for sale as new, and you wouldn't have known. You would have been none the wiser. That's how little it wore. So it was very good. It really was. I'm very impressed. Very impressed. The only issue that we had, which was not an issue with the gun, it was an issue with the cartridge. The gun suffered dreadful fouling. Apart from the fouling, then the cartridges appeared fine. There was no damage to the bore, as you possibly might expect. And there was none at all. But the fouling, it was a problem. In saying that, they did shoot quite a lot of cartridges in quite a short space of time. I've seen it after thousands and thousands of rounds, so likely as not, people wouldn't treat it that way. But that was the only issue.
Right, so here it is. Slightly concerned it's not the same gun. It looks lovely. It's been on tour, so unfortunately Mark didn't have it in his hands when he was explaining himself, but pretty impressive, don't you think? I mean, also I need to say, shout out to Yildiz, to Austin, to Ely, because they put themselves front and centre. We asked different brands to be involved in this, some declined, and Yildiz put themselves forward, as did Ely, so fair play and thank you very much. Interesting results, but I mean, it looks, as Mark said, you could put it back on, a bit of a concern, but you could put it back on the shelf and sell it as new. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this, you would never, there was a few scratches, but hardly any, but the whole action, the whole chamber, it's just like new. You would have thought there'd be some wear there, wouldn't you, after 10,000 shots? Actually,
yes, to add that I think there were points where 4,000 shells had gone through it and there hadn't been any cleaning going on. So Mark referred to sort of fouling inside the barrel, but there were long periods of time where it wasn't touched. So I'm speaking to Ely about that and whether that's an issue, particularly with the Eco Wad, but I don't know. I mean, if you don't clean your gun, what happens?
Well, exactly. You get fouling, it's going to get dirty, isn't it? I mean, again, but yeah, how many rounds would somebody put through a shotgun before cleaning it? I mean, Yeah, I know when I was doing a lot of clay shooting, you clean it out every time you came home. So you clean it down.
Yeah.
So again, that wouldn't be an issue. There's no way I would have ever thought there was any scenario where you get that many, however many thousands of shots put through without cleaning it. So you are going to expect a certain amount of fouling no matter what you put through it.
But I suppose the point was the abrasive nature of steel inside these barrels. And
it's done nothing.
Even if there was some residue left inside the barrels, Mark said the barrels were basically as good as new, which tells a story, doesn't it? So yeah, I mean, apart from nodding and going, so,
what more can you say?
Well, but again, just thank you. Right, complete change. We're going to go away from the shotgun and we're going to go and see Dan at braces.
So working on the shop floor here, I'm often asked my opinion on calibers, especially from new shooters. What caliber would I need to do a specific job? Obviously, there's a multitude of calibers you can use for various different types of game or vermin. I usually would try and steer a customer towards the more common calibers. The other thing to think about with calibers is availability of ammunition, especially if you were going to possibly not stay local to our shop or go abroad. You need to buy some ammunition. It's going to be hard to get hold of 6.5 PRC ammunition, whereas 308 ammo you should be able to get in basically any gun shop in the world where 308's legal. I usually go by, obviously for like rabbits, vermin control, your rimfires, a separate thing altogether. That's where most people start with their rifles and their rifle licensing. A lot of licensing departments will make you stay with a rimfire for the first year or 2 years, or until you've done a safety course or got experience with centerfire rifles. They will sort of make you stay with the stabilizers on until that point. When you're going up to the centerfire rifles, a lot of people like to apply for a 223 or maybe a 222-50 for fox control. Great caliber. Working here a long time, I've seen what tends to happen is they then get into deer shooting in the future or want to go deer stalking, but they're sort of undergunned and they've then got to trade that back in and purchase a larger caliber. So quite often, if they've got the choice or they've got the experience and I think they'd be able to get the license straight away, I would actually suggest you went straight for a 243 or a 308. Those would be probably the two most common calibers for UK deer species. Obviously, I'm not saying they're the only ones, there's a multitude, but those would be the ones that I would recommend. If one of my mates came in, what should I apply for? That would be where I would steer them. I appreciate it's really easy to get yourself confused with calibers, especially if you're looking online. Some of the forums you'll be looking at will be based in different countries and the calibers they use or what they use them for is completely different from what you would actually use over here. I would say if you're at all confused, go into your local gun shop. I'm sure they'll be able to point you in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Dan. Now, unfortunately, sometimes we have to let Charlie out and he ends up with salt guns and hairnets. And this time he's got a bit of cardboard, which apparently has got some military use, and 3 sets of different types of bino.
You are thinking of buying a pair of binoculars. So do you go for absolutely top of the range Zeiss Swarovski Leica at more than £2,000? Do you go for mid-range Kite Minox at more than £1,000? Do you go for a second-hand version? This is a Zeiss Victory HT. This is Swarovski EL. Both of them second-hand, under £1,000. They're both around about £700, £900. Or do you go for Chinese? Because they might be just as good, and some of them are less than £100. And then one more thing to think about is, well, if you're going to use them for something like deer stalking, do you need an expensive pair of binoculars these days when you're probably picking up most of your deer on thermal? So the combination of thermal cheap pair of binoculars is becoming a thing now. At that slightly cheaper end, we have these from iSki. This is the iSki Skytrek HD. That's around about £100 to £200. And this is the iSki Hyperion range, and this is £200 plus. So the choice is iSki, Hyperion £250, Zeiss SF Victory £2,500, or something in between. Well, let's check the optical quality. So first thing I'm going to do is score the optics, and I'm going to do that using this wonderful US Air Force optical chart from 1951. and it's got bars that are horizontal and vertical, and a score 65432, and then a smallest one 654321 over here. And we're just going to take a snapshot through each of the lenses of the binoculars I've got here and compare them on screen so you can see, and you can judge for yourself how each one scores. Now this is me walking across the field to about 100 yards away and setting up my optical chart. iSki kindly sent me an attachment so I can fit my phone to the binos and take a picture. And these are the results. Both the Zeiss and the Swarovski are showing some fogging. The Zeiss more than the Swarovski. The Swarovski shows up contrasts better than the Zeiss, but that results in loss of definition on the optical target, so I can't give the Swarovski a score for that. Blow up the pictures and we can score them. Swarovski 0 points, though you can see that if it weren't for the contrast it might score 1. Zeiss scores 2 points. Can you see the slight orangey change in colour around the target image? That's a chromatic aberration. The old Swarovski didn't have that. The iSki Skytrek HD also has chromatic aberration, and the 2 score is just about okay, though the 1 score does not pass, so you can score it 2 or 0. The higher quality iSki Hyperion ED shows overall a slightly clearer image of the optical target than its litter sister, with similar chromatic aberration, so again you can score it 2 or 0. Scores on the 1s and 2s aren't that great, but that target was a long way away. We've seen what the binoculars can't do, let's see what they can do. I move the target quite a lot closer. At 30 yards it all gets a lot clearer, and there is not much between the binos, so let's blow them up. The Swarovski, clear as a bell. Some chromatic aberration on that black square at the top. You can see how the top edge looks slightly bluer. On the mini scale, on the left of the middle, it scores 2 or possibly 3. The 10-year-old Zeiss has some fogging, perhaps representing its hard life as my go-to binos, but better general clarity than the Swarovski's, scoring 4. The iSki Skytrek HD is almost bang on the same quality as the Swaros, a good 2 points. The more expensive iSki Hyperion ED is best in class. Similar chromatic aberration on the black square as the Swarovskis, but for clarity, 4, bordering 5 points. Of course, there is edge-to-edge quality to check and light transmission, that crucial last 5 minutes of evening light. But for clarity, that's a remarkable achievement by a budget brand. So there you are, that's the verdict for the optics. There are a few other things to consider. These binoculars are fairly, well, modern but traditional in the sense they're weighted evenly all the way along, and they do that. They're still relatively heavy at the lens end. The binoculars that came after them in the Zeiss Canon, these ones, are very easy to lift your eye. They're an actual pleasure to lift your eye like that. These ones, well, they're slightly lighter anyway, and I would say they're still relatively heavy on the lens end, but I mean, well, it depends on you whether you think that's an issue. And then of course the really big one is how long will they last? Chinese, not a great reputation. iSki, however, want to launch as a brand, so maybe they're going to work a bit harder. You can say about these are 10 years old, these Victory HT binoculars. These Swarovski ELs are 30 years old. And okay, stuff happens with them, like that comes off from time to time, but you know, I learned not to do that, so I can live with that. 800 to 900 pounds, 850 to 950, 230, 135. They're all nitrogen filled, they're all waterproof, they all look solid. These ones will come with a warranty because they're sold to you new. These ones obviously don't, but they've been around the block and they're still going strong. As they say in the cinema, you pays your money and you takes your chalk ice.
As if by magic, we're back, and suddenly there's a load of torches in front of us. Right, Streamlight have sent us torches to field test at some point in the future, but it meant that there was sort of like a reason to talk about torches. We talk so much about thermal, we talk so much about night vision. The sort of practical use of torches and how you use them. I mean, with the camera work and stuff when we were doing night shooting, if I remember it, and it's charged, a head torch is really, really useful for me. But are you still lamping? We haven't lamped in ages though.
No, I still like going out lamping. I mean, the problem with thermal is you can't see through windows. So if you come across courting couples when you're out lamping, it was always good, if you had a big old lamp, you could just, shine them up.
I've been out with a few people, and it always amazes me. You're so bold. You'll go, oh, what's going on in there? You're so...
Well, they shouldn't be parked in the gateway, should they?
I know, but it's sort of like, I don't know, I feel really awkward.
No, you shouldn't feel awkward. It's fun. I mean, some of the sights you see, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and some of the moonscapes are quite phenomenal. So yeah.
Because I remember I was in Germany with Dom Holton. We were with Max. We did that bare bottom stalking where we were walking through, and he was like, "Hey, look at you, look at you, look at you, look at you," and it's just like, "Oh my God, leave these poor people trying to dive into their sort of like the seats of their Volkswagen," and it's sort of like, "Oh my God." I think
Roy, you've given away the reason why we go.
No, exactly. We've got all up over it all.
I hope my wife's not watching this.
Lamping, dogging.
Right. So there's lots of different torches here. So I mean, we've got some very strange. This is obviously awesome for. I think this is magnetic. No, you magnetic and any.
I don't know. Let's see. Don't know.
Have you never? No. When we go to the airports.
Yeah, no, I do.
You
buzz.
always.
Buzz and ping. It's probably too much fat in the way for it to actually connect. So.
That'd be very funny if you sort of walk past something and you're walking along and it's just sort of just, Roy, you've got something sort of like just. Anyway, going off piste here. So practical uses of torches. I mean, I quite like these little jobs now that are really neat and you can stick on your baseball cap or cap. I mean, this is quite cool actually, moving around. But, oops. Oh, there's a USB charger as well or something like that. But yeah, as far as lamping then, have you tended to move away from the big, what's it called, Deben?
Well, I mean, we've still got some of the light force, some of the strikers and clue lights and things like that. Just because it's a nice workable beam. I mean, obviously, we use the torches as well. But if I'm lamping with the birds, I tend to find that the best illumination, because it gives a nice wide beam, but also it's strong enough that the birds can see what they're chasing. So if you're rabbiting with one of the hawks at night and using one of the old plugins, so with the cigarette lighter in the car, it is very good. But the problem was always with those was the wiring. So the wires would always give out, and they would always.
Many times you've been
exactly fiddling around just trying to get them to connect. So we'd always have a backup. But again, with the evolution of the batteries that are available in some of these, some of the jobbies like this, they're absolutely
it's light, isn't it?
Very, very good. And again, what you can do now with the LEDs and what's available to you is phenomenal. But again, as you say, because most people are now moving on to thermal or night vision, the use of torches has definitely gone down. And
if you do lose something, you've got your phone as well.
The
phones are proved to be incredibly practical. But yeah, with you, Mr.
Yeah,
Pilbeam,
so I tend to use I've got a night force, which if I'm in my vehicle with my buggy, I'm going out using that quite a bit, and also very often I use just a small light. So I'm going to shoot some rabbits with a 2.2 or the 1.7 HMR. I just go plug that on top, and shooting to 130 odd yards, and a small little light on top is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So would you say that most of your rifles, your pest control rifles, have attachments in order to have a little unit on top now, whether it's IR? Well, again, that's back to night vision, isn't it? But you know what I mean? Do you tend to think, where am I going to put my torch, or is that something?
No, I mean, for me personally, I mean, we don't go lamping anywhere near as much as we used to, but for me, when we were lamping, it was always a bit of a group exercise. So we'd always have two or three of us out, and that's just the way that we preferred to do it. One, from a safety aspect, you've got more sets of eyes keeping an eye on everything. You know what's going on. You know where you are. And we'd always have one person on the lamp, one person driving, one person shooting, and that's the way that we tried to do it. So, it was never, I never went down the route really of having the lights attached. But, obviously if you're just driving around on a quad or as Tim on the Gator or whatever else, then it works perfectly.
It works well. I think, yes, nowadays with these Gators, quads or buggies nowadays, you're a lot lighter, so you can get out and about. The olden days, it's a Land Rover or back of a Hilux.
That's it.
If you got a bit wet and sticky, you're in the soup. But nowadays, we've got these very light buggies. So I tend to use more my light force, for instance, which is plugged in. While you can just lamp everywhere, spot everywhere, and you just picks everything up straight away. So I'll say that's my preferred way of doing it.
Tell you what I prefer is not having the lamp, because you'd like, there it is, and you drop it and you go, can you see it? No. And you're focusing on the top of the oak tree and the blooming thing's down at the bottom of the oak tree. And you're getting the glimmer of the eyes. For me, when we first started doing the foxing, unless it was, really, really coming in strong.
Yeah.
Very challenging.
It is difficult, but I think this is. But again, you can also get that, when you're lamping. If you've got somebody lamping to the right hand side and you're shooting from the left hand side, so you're coming at opposing angles. If the fox is looking directly at the lamp, a lot of the time you can struggle to pick it up with the rifle.
Yeah.
But I think all of these, all of the toys that we've got available now. When you think back to when we started out, and it was literally you'd go and buy a motorcycle battery. You put it in a hold all the carrier bag, and then have all your wires and everything else sticking out and over your back, and away you went. And you ended up coming home with half your trousers burnt out with battery acid. It's amazing what it is now.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yes. Yeah. So and also with a very sore shoulder, because the old batteries would be quite big.
Heavy.
But that
Tell you what that reminds me of. We did that simulated lamping event. You find that a lot of the international guys, I was terrible at it anyway, but that doesn't matter. But the international guys, they just don't get it, do they?
They don't get it. It's a completely different skill, and it's so nice bringing something down to earth. And the telltale thing is when you're spotting something, and you're looking to left where the chap is, and you see the end of the muzzle doing this.
Mine was going like that.
Have you got it? Yeah. And he's just like this, But it is that it's hand-eye, light coordination, it's the whole thing. And a lot of people, especially if you've got glasses, they do struggle with it. So one up on the Europeans, because we're pretty damn good on it.
Yes. Mr. Wiggins, I remember him doing something with the bonnet and sort of pointing and said, that's pretty much where it is. Or so you get your bearings. There are techniques. Obviously, you learn techniques.
There is a knack. I think you're a hunter. If you know where, I think you automatically, it's like a GPS. You're actually on it, and it's a hidden sense you have at night time.
Yeah.
And if you're not used to that, it's
sight acquisition. I still don't get it.
Yeah.
All of you, I don't know how you do it, but it's immediately bump. It's like me
Miss
on a camera, bump, I'm there.
No, like, David, can you see it?
Yes.
David, are you on it?
Yes, but I'm saying
David,
yes, but you can't frickin' hear me.
It's getting old. David, it's going grey.
I thought you were going to hear me. Right, on that bombshell, thank you both very, very much. That brings us to the end of this particular field tester. Thank you very much for joining us.